I was 73 when I married again. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. What on earth was an old man like me doing getting hitched at that age? Truth is, I was lonely. My wife of 45 years had passed on. The kids had their own lives. The house was too quiet, the bed too cold, and the evenings way too long. So when Diana walked into my life, all warm smiles, silk scarves, and just the right amount of flattery, I didn't think with my brain. I thought with my heart. Or maybe just my ego. Diana was 41. Yep. Do the math. My friends said she was too young. My daughter said she was a gold digger. Even my dog barked at her. But I just wanted to believe love had knocked twice on my door. But the truth? She didn't love me. She loved my house on the lake. She loved my vintage car collection. She loved my investments. And when she said, "Let's not make it awkward with a prenup. I love you, not your money," I should have seen the red flags. But I didn't. Until it was almost too late. This is the story of how I turned the tables. How I made her sign everything away, legally, willingly, and smiling. It's the tale of how a lonely old man became the biggest plot twist of her life. So grab your coffee, sit tight, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because what you're about to hear is juicier than a Thanksgiving turkey at a family fight. It wasn't the first time I got down on one knee, but it was definitely the last. My knees creaked like rusted hinges, and I nearly toppled over trying to pull that damn ring out of my blazer pocket. Diana giggled and said, "Oh, George, you're adorable." I took that as a yes. She kissed me like she meant it. But even then, I swear I saw her eyes flicker past my shoulder, right toward the antique grandfather clock I inherited from my grandfather, worth more than a college education. The wedding was fast. She didn't want a big one. Just you, me, and a sunset on the lake, she said. Seemed romantic. Turns out, it was also cheaper and left fewer witnesses. My daughter, Emily, didn't come. She sent a gift, a copy of The Art of War. Real subtle. She never once asked me about my late wife. Never asked about my hobbies, my military service, or the years I worked as a civil engineer. But boy, did she love hearing about my dividend portfolio. And that time, I casually mentioned my will? She suddenly started baking cookies, rubbing my shoulders, and calling me my sweet Georgie boy. I hadn't been called that since 1972. I kept brushing it off. She just loves me extra, that's all, I'd say to myself. But then she asked to meet with my financial planner, just in case something ever happened to you, baby. That's when I started keeping a journal. Just in case something ever happened to me. Diana didn't know I kept my original will locked in a fireproof box in the attic. She didn't know I had a lawyer I trusted more than my own brother. And she sure didn't know I wasn't as senile as I sometimes let on. So I played along. I acted like the old fool. I let her believe she was winning. She didn't know the game hadn't even started yet. I paid Dr. Kim, my old army buddy, a visit. "George, you look fine," he said after a basic checkup. "What's this about?" I handed him a typed letter I'd written. "I need you to sign this for me. Nothing illegal. Just strategic." He chuckled. "You're still playing chess while everyone else is playing tic-tac-toe, huh?" The letter stated I was advised to reduce stress and avoid major financial decisions due to episodic cognitive lapses, just enough to look like early forgetfulness, but not enough to take away my autonomy. Diana found the note a week later, left where I knew she'd snoop. She didn't bring it up, but I saw her download a power of attorney form that very night. Checkmate. Not yet. "She's bleeding you dry, Dad," Emily said over tea. "She's already asked to sell Mom's piano, the one she never even touched." "I'm handling it, sweetie." "Handling it? You look like a frog in a pot that's slowly boiling." Emily wanted to hire a private investigator. I told her not to, because I already had. Frankie Roses, ex-cop, discreet, and loyal to me since I got him out of a DUI back in '89. He'd been tailing Diana for weeks. The photos? Revealing. The phone records? Juicier than a soap opera. The name she kept calling? Marcus. Marcus was younger, tattooed, and dumb as a box of rocks. I met him at the diner, sat across the booth from him with a calm smile. "You don't know me," I said, "but I know you." He reached for his phone. I reached for a manila envelope. "This is you, holding hands with my wife. You in my Mercedes. You leaving my house when I was supposedly at my cardiologist." His face turned milk white. "I'm not here to fight," I said. "I'm here to offer you something better." I slid him a contract, legally binding. "You're going to convince Diana to open a joint business account with me. Just a small thing. Say it's for a joint project. And then you disappear." He took the deal. Diana was thrilled when I told her I wanted to launch a legacy project, something charitable in our names. "Of course, darling," she beamed. "What a beautiful idea." The business paperwork was real. So was the trust account. She signed everything. Every dotted line. Every clause. Including one that said, "Any funds contributed by George Walters to this account become the exclusive property of the George Walters Trust unless explicitly designated otherwise." And she initialed it. 3 times. Because greed blinds even the cleverest of liars. She thought she was cashing in. She had no idea she was signing herself out. With the trust account in place, I started making random donations to local causes, all in both our names. Diana loved the publicity. She started taking selfies at charity events, calling herself a philanthropist. She didn't notice that every donation came straight from the trust and not from our joint assets. I made sure the media caught wind of our legacy work. Diana started doing interviews. She leaned into the whole loving wife act so hard, I almost believed it myself. Almost. Emily was the one who pulled the trigger. She sent an anonymous package to the local gossip blog. It contained photos of Diana and Marcus kissing, a credit card statement with suspicious purchases, a copy of Diana's texts from a burner phone, "Thank you, Frankie the PI." The blog ran the story with the headline, "Lakefront Philanthropist or Gold Digger in Heels?" Diana screamed when she saw it. I sipped my tea. She demanded to know if I leaked it. I looked confused. "What blog?" "We need to update the will," Diana said at lunch the next day. She wore pearls and panic in equal measure. "Sure," I said. "Let's meet with Harold." "You trust Harold, right?" She nodded, but I saw her twitch. Harold, my lawyer, played his part well. He brought a new will and read it aloud. It left everything to the George Walters Foundation, including the house, the cars, the stocks. Diana blinked. "What about me?" "You're listed as honorary chairwoman," Harold said. "Title only. No assets." She didn't sign. Yet. She packed a bag. Yelled that I was ungrateful. Called me a wrinkled con artist. I didn't respond. Then she made one mistake. She tried to withdraw money from the trust account. Blocked. The bank called me, not her. I arrived home to broken glass, shredded suits, and the antique grandfather clock tipped on its side. The dog growled at her. Again. "I'm calling Marcus," she screamed. I smiled. "You mean the guy who moved to Costa Rica with a non-extradition agreement?" "Yeah, I helped him pack." Her face crumbled like dry cake. And I sat down with a glass of scotch and turned on the jazz. A week after the trust freeze, I asked Harold to send an official-looking letter to the house. Diana opened it while I watched reruns of Matlock. She gasped, "You're being sued." I looked over, squinting. "Oh, dear. That's from my old business partner's estate. Some disagreement over a 1983 investment. Nothing to worry about." She was very worried, especially when she realized assets under my name could be tied up for months. "Maybe you should transfer things to me. For now," she whispered. "Hook." Line, sinker. Only if you trust me, I said. No pressure. We went to the notary the next day. Diana dressed in her best power blazer. Harold was already there, with a fresh set of papers. She signed over power of attorney, control of household accounts, even my medical directive. What she didn't know was this. 1. The lawsuit? Fake. Total fabrication. 2. The documents? Structured to look like a transfer of power, but actually reinforced all control back to the George Walters Trust. 3. Her signature? Witnessed. Recorded. Irrevocable. Feels good to be protected, I said. She kissed my cheek. Don't worry, baby. I've got you. And oh, did she. 2 weeks later, Diana filed for divorce. She thought she'd get half. She didn't know the prenup did exist, quietly signed during our first cruise trip, filed under her travel alias name she forgot she used. Thank you, Harold. In court, her lawyer started confidently. Your Honor, Mrs. Walters seeks an equitable distribution of... Objection, Harold interrupted. We have Exhibit A through F proving Mrs. Walters knowingly forfeited all financial claims. The judge raised an eyebrow, including her signature on her husband's medical waiver. Diana went pale. I just smiled. The judge ruled in my favor. She got nothing. Not the house. Not the lake view. Not the car. And certainly not the investments. What she did get: a bill for court fees and a restraining order. I held a small press conference for the George Walters Foundation. Emily stood proudly by my side. So did Harold. When asked what I'd learned, I said, love is a wonderful thing. But a good lawyer? That's eternal. The court ruling made local news, then regional, then national. The headline: Gold digger loses it all. 73-year-old outsmarts younger bride in stunning divorce twist. I became an overnight sensation. A clip of me walking out of the courthouse in my tweed jacket and cane, tipping my hat to reporters, went viral. The internet dubbed me Gramps with grit. Diana. She went into hiding. Social media roasted her to oblivion. People asked me for interviews, books, even a Netflix deal. I declined most of it. But I did say yes to one podcast, Senior Swagger, hosted by a 78-year-old fashionista who called me a national treasure. Diana tried to fight back. She filed a civil suit accusing me of emotional manipulation and elder abuse. It didn't even make it to trial. Harold responded with a counter-lawsuit, defamation, breach of trust, and attempted financial fraud. Her own lawyer dropped her. She started showing up at places I frequented, the hardware store, my favorite diner. She'd smile through gritted teeth. She once slipped a note into my coat pocket. You haven't heard the last of me. I showed it to the judge. The restraining order got extended to 5 years. I expanded the George Walters Foundation. Emily became co-director. We opened a scholarship for women over 40 returning to college, named after my late wife, Margaret. Every time I saw the plaque that read the Margaret Walters Scholarship Fund, I felt peace. Diana's shadow no longer hovered over my life. She faded. I rose, not as a victim, but as a survivor and a teacher. Last week, I got a letter in the mail with no return address. Inside was a photo of Diana, working the counter of a small-town motel in Nevada. On the back, it read, "Guess we both underestimated each other." I placed it in the fireplace, watched the flames curl around the paper, then went out to my deck, coffee in hand, dog at my side, and watched the sun rise over the lake. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's just quiet peace. Just when I thought the drama was winding down, a letter arrived. It came from Marcus, mailed from some remote mountain town in Colorado. The envelope was handwritten, shaky but deliberate. I sat at my desk, hands trembling slightly, not with fear, but with something else I hadn't felt in a long time. Closure. George, I didn't know what she was truly like until it was too late. She ruined my credit, sold my mother's jewelry, and left me with debt collectors knocking on my cabin door. You were right. And I was a fool. I'm sorry. The letter continued with his plans to rebuild, his work with a veterans charity, and his intention never to contact Diana again. I folded the letter carefully, placing it in a drawer labeled Karma. I didn't reply, because forgiveness is earned, and Diana had earned none. It was Emily's idea, a big party, something light-hearted, a celebration of family, survival, and, in her words, Dad finally getting his groove back. We invited neighbors, friends, even my grumpy bridge partner Hank. The backyard was strung with warm lights, Sinatra playing low in the background. Everyone showed up, except Diana. Oh, but she did send a gift. A small velvet box. Inside was the ring. The diamond she'd once insisted was too small. The same ring she'd flaunted for months on social media. No note. Just the ring. I held it up to the light. It sparkled just fine. I raised a toast. To peace, to family, and to knowing when to walk away. The backyard echoed with applause. Emily smiled. I smiled back. Because finally, I wasn't playing defense anymore. 2 weeks later, Diana went on a talk show. Some trashy daytime slot, Hearts and Lies, or something equally ridiculous. She sat there, fake crying, painting herself as the gold digger turned victim. Spoke about emotional abuse. Claimed I manipulated her. Said I faked my illness to trap her. That part was true, but it wasn't abuse, it was art. I watched with popcorn and zero shame. And then Emily posted the receipts. Bank statements. Photos. Marcus's signed affidavit. The comments section turned into a battlefield, and Diana lost every inch. Hashtag Team George trended for 2 straight days. I even got invited to speak at a seniors empowerment seminar in Florida. How to outsmart a gold digger at 75. I wore my best blazer. Months passed. I bought a lakeside cabin. Spent mornings fishing, evenings reading. Emily visited often. The house echoed with laughter instead of accusations. I hired a chef who made a killer peach cobbler. Then one afternoon, I got a call. It was Diana's lawyer. She'd filed for bankruptcy. Claimed I owed her emotional damages. Wanted one last shot at a settlement. I laughed. And then I did something petty, beautiful, and entirely satisfying. I mailed her a framed photo of my new living room with a headline clipped from the local paper. Retired vet turns table on gold digger, becomes viral hero. Taped beside it was a sticky note. You should have married me for love, Diana. It would have cost you nothing. I had never planned to go viral. That's more Emily's territory. But after the charity gala and Diana's social meltdown, it was hard not to become a talking point. Memes were circulating with my photo and the caption, "He played chess while she was busy faking love." But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. With Diana officially divorced, stripped of the house, the jewelry, the car, and most of her pride, it was time for one final twist, the one she never saw coming. I rewrote my will. But not quietly. No, I held a public reading. Invited friends, family, and the press. Diana had been foolish enough to leak gossip to TMZ, so I decided to let them watch the sequel. I stood behind a podium in my backyard, looking over familiar faces. Emily was in the front row. So was my lawyer. And Diana. She crashed it. Of course she did. She thought maybe she'd still get something. My estate, I said, will be divided into 4 equal parts. The beneficiaries are my daughter Emily, my 2 grandsons, and 1 other. Diana's lips twitched. She was ready to fake a gasp of gratitude. The final share, I said slowly, will go to the waitress who once brought me coffee every morning when I had no one else to talk to. Her name is Ruby Thomas. She reminded me what kindness looks like. Gasps. Cameras flashed. Diana's mouth hung open. And to my former wife Diana, I continued, I leave the memories. Good luck living in them. The crowd burst into gasps and chuckles. Even my lawyer smiled. It was savage, yes, but it was earned. Every last word. Life after Diana was peaceful, boring, even, and I loved every second of it. Emily's podcast took off. She interviewed older folks with stories like mine, giving voice to the generation that's often ignored. The episode titled, She Married My Dad for Money, So We Gave Her Nothing, hit 1 million downloads in a week. I got letters from people all over the country. Some sent support. Some sent similar stories. One man wrote, You reminded me to rewrite my own will. My new wife isn't gonna like it. Diana tried suing me. Twice. But every document, every signature, every trap she walked into was ironclad. Last I heard, she was selling MLM diet shakes on Instagram. One afternoon, I sat on my porch with a glass of iced tea, watching the sunset, when Emily came over with Ruby. You're a legend, Ruby said, laughing. I'm just an old man who paid attention, I replied. Emily handed me a small package. Inside was a chessboard, marble, elegant. And on it, one piece, a lone black king. I had it custom made, she said. Thought it suited you. I nodded, smiling. Because I won? No, Emily said. Because you survived with style. I looked out over the horizon, the wind gentle, the war long over. And somewhere deep inside, I whispered to myself, checkmate. Like, share and subscribe for more real-life revenge stories that prove age brings wisdom, and sometimes perfectly legal payback. Winking face.